Greetings, welcome. It is a new week, brand new episode of Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. I'm Jerry Usher, along with Debbie Georgiani. Today we're gonna take a stroll back in time, all of us, and just try and consider and recall those times in our lives, probably much before now, when we were much earlier, much younger, when we would do things, try things, take up dares, take risks, challenges. You know, when we thought we were, maybe it wasn't because we thought we were invincible, but we just didn't think about the possible consequences of some of the actions that we did. So, Debbie, this is going to be, I think, a revealing program. I've got a few things I can share, that I look back and I go, wow, did I really do those things?
I was just going to say, are you speaking about yourself? Because I had a very cautious childhood.
Oh, is that right?
I wasn't really daring. I think I was afraid because my dad was pretty strict. And so I didn't take too many chances. Although I will tell you, I was part of a moped group. Do you remember mopeds?
Oh, of course, yeah.
Yeah, it's not like motorcycles or anything. They're like the mini, less dangerous versions. And my dad said, whatever you do, don't be riding with those moped kids. And I did. And I got my ankle burned on the, what do you call it, the tailpipe or whatever?
Right,
and of course, I had to go home and confess because it hurt.
Really?
Yeah, so that was like the most daring thing I did when I was a kid. I think I'd have to really think about it, but I see why we're talking about this, because if we're remembering the days when we thought we were invincible, and then life catches up with us. Our body, starts to ache, and things start to happen, and we start to face our own mortality, and we realize that those things that we just thought we really could accomplish, maybe they became a little bit more difficult, or maybe we couldn't do them at all, or maybe we just kind of had this, I don't know I guess you want to call it mind over matter, like Jack LaLanne had, where he was 96 years old and the day before he died, he was still doing his rigorous workout. So that's, there's something to be said for that. I think this is an interesting topic, though, Jerry. I think, as always, it could weave into our spirituality.
All right, who is going to be our first callers here right now? 1-800-585-9396. 800-585-9396. Now, listen, you don't have to be really super old to participate in this conversation, because I think we can all look back and, when we're young, we just don't give a lot of thought to the fact that one day we will die, but not only that we'll die, but that sooner or later, as Debbie alluded to, we're going to have physical limitations. We'll begin living day to day with all sorts of aches and pains. And as these years unfold, how has your thinking changed about life in general? And maybe how has your thinking changed about what's really important in life and what's ultimately eternal? 1-800-585-9396. Join us.
You can also text us if you want to weigh in on the conversation. You can text the letters EWTN to 55000. You wait for a response and you put your first name in, your question or your comment, and we'll put it right into the discussion at the appropriate time. Keep in mind that minor data rates may apply depending on your service plan. We just wanted to say that up front because that's, as good Christians, we always want to help each other out. So.
Well, and here, let me kind of grease the skids here a little bit, just for people who are wondering, well, what kinds of things might Jerry and Debbie be talking about? When I was growing up, I grew up in a very rural country setting, and Debbie, we had these it was in Washington State, we had these tall trees. I mean, they would go up 100, 120 feet into the air, and we would try to see how high we could climb in these trees. And literally, we'd be looking out over the world, but you're up there and you're going, wow, how did I get up here? And it's not going to be as easy going down as it was getting up here. And you think about it, Debbie, one little slip or something, and you would drop, and you would hit like every branch on the way down. I don't know how somebody could survive. And then there were other times, we'd jump off of train trestles and high cliffs into a little lake and stuff. And you know how you just do things that are not really crazy, but you just don't think about the potential consequences because you think, wow, this nothing can hurt me. I'm young.
Well, yeah, but that's like a parent's nightmare. Weren't you afraid to go home? I mean, what if your mom caught you doing that? Wouldn't she be upset?
Oh, probably not. But if we ever did anything that we thought she'd be upset with, I'm sure we didn't tell her.
Yeah, but climbing, I mean, so when you were doing it, was it just an adrenaline rush, or weren't you, as you were going up, 2 and 3 stories, weren't you thinking to yourself, this is kind of stupid?
Well, I don't think so. We would build tree forts as well, and a lot of our listeners probably had tree forts or have kids, you built one for your kids, and I think they're really cool, and if they're done well and safely, they can be a lot of fun. But These are the kinds of things we're talking about, dear friends. Do you look back at a time in your life when you really, maybe not consciously, but by the way you acted, you sort of manifested this sense that, hey, I'm invincible, and nothing can conquer me, and I can conquer anything I want, and now as we go through life, just getting out of bed can be like climbing a 120-foot tree when you were young. So how's your thinking changed about that? And really, here's maybe the big question, Debbie, as we come upon these limitations in life, we have to accept these things, and that can be hard. That can be it's been hard for me. Letting go of playing basketball and doing so many other things I used to do. So, dear friends, how have maybe some of the inevitable physical limitations, caused you to just to change your thinking about what's really important in life?
Have you tried to play basketball again? Because I think you could do it again.
I don't know. My knees are.
Oh, really? You're just. Is it a fear thing that you think they're just going to like pop or something?
No, I think afterwards they would just scream bloody murder at me. So.
Okay, gotcha. and I just thought of something. Maybe, how about this? Maybe when you were kids and you were climbing up that enormous tree, maybe you were praying all the way up. Dear God, please help me, please help me.
Oh, I'm sure there were prayers, but I don't know how devout I was at the time. They were more like the 911 God, like, hello, if you're there,
save me. I have to tell you, raising boys, as you were saying that, I got this sick feeling in my stomach, thinking to myself, because as you said, if you fell, you would hit every branch. The problem with that is, Jerry, you probably wouldn't die instantly. It would probably be a very painful death.
Right. Well, and another thought here on this topic too. This wasn't the case necessarily some decades ago, but dear listeners, maybe you look around at all of these anti-aging programs, and you see these billboards, and there's one near where I live that says aging is optional, and I'm thinking to myself, what? But what they're getting at, Debbie, is as we reach these times in our lives when we can't do what we used to do, and just functioning on a daily basis is a little bit harder. Many people in the world are desperately clinging to, trying to stay young at virtually any cost. And sorry, folks, it's just not going to happen.
Yeah, I think there's an art to aging gracefully, and I think it's really nice when people embrace the different stages of life, as opposed to trying to fight it. Because I think that it looks to me sometimes it looks very plastic. It doesn't look real. So I don't know. I mean, nothing against it. I mean, I probably would try something if it was easy to do, but I don't know if it's that easy. I think sometimes just embracing it and enjoying each stage might be the best route. But let's talk about it, okay? And here's the thing: we can always weave this in, like I said, into our spirituality. So we need your input. Here's the number: 1-800-585-9396. This is Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. And Jerry and I are back from Station of the Cross in Buffalo, New York, with a very wonderful spring appeal there. They had a great time, great participation. So thanks, everybody in the Buffalo, New York State, Pennsylvania, Boston, Massachusetts area. We love you guys. See you soon.
Post your intentions on the prayer wall on Jerry and Debbie's website. To get there, just click on the bright yellow J&D logo at take2show.com. Jerry and Debbie personally reply to every prayer intention that's posted. Others will also offer you their prayer support. When there's something important you want prayers for, post it on the prayer wall on Jerry and Debbie's site. Visit take2show.com, click on the J&D logo today.
Listen to EWTN Radio day or night. Audio on demand brings you your favorite EWTN programs, prayers, and devotionals instantly to you for free. Visit EWTNapps.com and get started today.
This is Life Issues with Brad Mattis, president of Life Issues Institute.
Federal officials indicted 15 people for illegally trafficking body parts. The entire body fetched as much as $1,200. Heads went for $250 and a set of wings $900. Yes, wings. They were selling body parts of eagles, and they're experiencing the full wrath of the American legal system, unlike Planned Parenthood for selling aborted baby body parts. The irony of the eagle situation compared with the aborted babies is astounding. Undercover informants posed as buyers to purchase eagle feathers from the alleged criminals, and officials are using this evidence to prosecute. But the pro-life informants were turned on by the authorities who sided with the profiteers. Join me in praying officials at least do for innocent unborn babies what's being done for eagles.
Follow us on Twitter at Life Issues USA and stay informed, more informed than you've ever been.
Hi, this is Dan Burke from the National Catholic Register.
Hello, this is Bishop David O'Connell of the Diocese of Trenton.
Hi, this is Teresa Tomeo, host of Catholic Connection, and thanks for listening to the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network.
So good to have you with us on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. The Take Two means we like to take a unique look, maybe a new look, a fresh look at a new perspective on all sorts of things in life. And today we're talking about early in our lives when we did maybe not stupid things, maybe not crazy things, but we just did things that kind of pushed the envelope of possibilities, and maybe it was a time when you either thought you were invincible or just didn't really think about any of the possible consequences, and you thought you could conquer the world. How has your thinking and your mindset changed as your body has started to give you signals that you can't do that stuff anymore?
Okay, Jerry, I received a text message from my girlfriend who heard your tree story and said if you were her son, she would have really been upset with you.
Wow.
You got away with it. You see, a lot of parents would say that, Jerry, because that's like a parent's worst nightmare, to think that a child could fall to their death that way.
Right. Oh, I know.
But you were very lucky. Did all your brothers and you do that together?
Oh yeah. We were always up to something. Mom just said, "Get out of the house. Get out. Go do something."
Oh, bless your heart. That is awesome. Okay, so we have been so waiting to hear this first call, and Barbara came in very quickly. Barbara, I think this is going to be amazing. From Fort Wayne, Indiana, listening on Redeemer Radio. Hi, Barbara. Welcome to Take Two.
Hi.
Hi, Barbara.
Hi. I sure enjoy Redeemer Radio, and you do take me a lot closer through all your gifts, talks. And I'm going to confess something that I did years ago. In the 8th grade, I was a tomboy. We lived only a few houses from the church and the school. And the teacher always believed the girls should be home in dresses praying, and I was always outside playing basketball and baseball. So one day she sees me playing basketball and comes down and her veil flying in the wind, and took the ball away from me and told me to get in the house and put my dress on and pray. And so my neighbor kid, who was not Catholic, I was the only Catholic kid in the neighborhood, he said, "You want to get even with old Rosie tonight?" I said, "Sure." He said, "Well, I got a cherry bomb." So that night we go down, we take their garbage can, put it in the high hedges, and he said, "You go between the houses and yell, 'Don't shoot, don't shoot,' and I'll set the cherry bomb off." So I went back by the bedroom windows and yelled, "Don't shoot, wait!" And he sets the cherry bomb off. And I'm telling you, within a matter of a very few short moments, the police were there, the dogs were there, the big beam lights were there, and me and my neighbor kid, we laid up on my neighbor's garage roof where he raised pigeons. We laid in pigeon dirt for 2 hours.
Oh, no.
The guy's telling him, if he just gets me out of this, I'll never do such a thing again. So the sister knew that my dad was a police officer. So the next morning when I get to school, she said, "Oh, my God, did they find the body? Did they ever find the body?" I said, "Gee, sister, I don't know what you're talking about. We were gone last night." So for the whole rest of that year, we prayed every morning that they would find the body. I was in the 8th grade then, and I did not confess that till I got to high school, where there were other priests to go to confession to.
Wow.
Barbara.
So, yeah, I was a normal kid, had a lot of adventures, so I had a lot of priests and nuns in my relations, so didn't mean anything to me. So, but the poor nun, we prayed every day.
Wow. Wow. So that must have kind of, did it weigh on you every day when you were praying, knowing full well that there was no body you were praying?
I'd get caught.
You what?
I didn't hear. It didn't bother me. I was just afraid I'd get caught.
Oh, you get caught.
I just prayed I wouldn't get caught.
8th grade, huh? Wow.
Yep.
So that was pretty gutsy of you, I have to say, that friend of yours told you to do that and you just did it.
Oh, yeah. We did lots of, we were just ornery kids, so.
So looking back, Barbara, do you, I mean, when you think back on it, do you say, well, I probably shouldn't have done that? Or you're kind of thinking to yourself, these were just the adventures of a child, and I don't regret any of them. What are your thoughts now? I'm curious, because there's young people listening to the show, and they're probably, who knows if they're going to be contemplating.
I have 9 grandchildren now, and I'm in my 70s. The world has changed drastically, but, I've always had that sense of prankstery in my bones. And I must say, I always pictured Jesus kind of with that. Maybe he did a few things like that.
A little mischievous?
As I look back, one time I told my neighbor that I found a dead body along the road and it was there, whatever. I mean, I have a wonderful imagination. But I have to really learn boundaries within that. And I do have one grandson that's kind of ornery, and we talk a lot about things like that, as long as you don't hurt anybody. But I did upset those nuns quite a bit.
Well, Barbara, it's funny. I'm surprised I didn't think of this example, too, from my youth as well, that you mentioned. I think you mentioned the cherry bomb, and it made me think of fireworks. And, Debbie, I don't know if you did this, but any of our listeners, we used to buy, we had fireworks stands, around the 4th of July, and we would buy firecrackers and Roman candles and all of these things, and we were so crazy risky with them, and it's amazing that I have all of my limbs and extremities. So it's another example from my life, when I probably had that feeling of invincibility. But Barbara, thanks for the call.
Yes, thank you, Barbara. You may want to write a book, Barbara, since you have such an imagination and a creativity. No, seriously, that's where very interesting.
Book of the people I met in life.
Oh, nice, very nice.
And how they've affected me.
Beautiful.
And someday I want to call in and tell you the story of the woman who was my neighbor from the concentration camp.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Profoundly affected my life. I thank you. We're all human, and I hope God has a good sense of humor.
Oh,
bless you, Barbara.
We do too, Barbara. We hope God has a sense of humor. Yeah, just a quick disclaimer, kids, don't do any of this at home. I'm going to speak like a parent now. Don't do anything we're talking about today. Don't do it. Please, Jerry, I know when you said fireworks, I'm laughing because I lived I think all my brothers and sisters, we lived a very sheltered life. We didn't do anything like that. It's really weird. Maybe, I don't know. Who knows? Okay, Stephanie, up next in Evans, Georgia, listening on St. Paul Radio. Hi, Stephanie. Welcome to Take Two.
Hi, how are you?
Doing great, Stephanie. How are you?
I'm doing well. I had to laugh listening to all the exploits because I was pretty much an indoor kind of child, indoor girl. Didn't like to get dirty, didn't like to get, adventurous. And what's really funny is as I've gotten older and started feeling those aches and pains of getting older, I really started to appreciate my body and what my body can do a lot more. And my mom always used to tell me, your body's a temple, you should take care of the temple. And I ended up about 6 years ago with cancer. And after I went through cancer, I discovered the joy of exercise and ended up becoming a fitness instructor. And I work primarily with other people who are going through cancer and a lot of the effects of treatment and chemo and surgery and that sort of thing. But then I also teach an older population and do a lot of fitness classes with them. And just wanted to encourage Jerry about how he was talking about his knee. There is no extra. There are plenty of exercises, so there's no reason to ever say I can't, even when you get older. And I want to encourage you, if you love playing basketball, there are all kinds of exercises you can do to strengthen those knees, so you can get back on that basketball court. And I just keep telling all of my people. I've had people in my classes well into their 90s, and they come back with great stories on what they can do physically now, and just keep using that gift of your body that God gave you, and work it and strengthen it, and it will all come back.
Wow, Stephanie, thanks for the encouragement. I've missed playing basketball, haven't played for probably 7 or 8 years, and so I'm gonna take that to heart, and I'm gonna pray about it. And maybe it is what Debbie said earlier, maybe just a fear that something's gonna happen out there on the court. But I will look into those exercises to strengthen my knees.
Absolutely, I would encourage you. to find those strengthening exercises that's going to help make that knee feel a lot more stable. And I think then you'll be back on the court in no time.
Awesome, thank you.
Stephanie, I just want to say it sounds like you're, I like to say cancer thriver, because I'm a cancer thriver as well, not a survivor, a thriver. And I love the way you took it to a ministry level and just really made it a mission of yours to help others really develop their bodies so that they can, feel better as they're going through treatment or after treatment, just to regain the strength. So I just want to say that's a ministry you're doing, Stephanie. I'm sure you know that already, and I just think it's wonderful how you, after your life experience, you put it into a work practice, which I think is beautiful.
Oh, well, thank you. And I do. I mean, I feel so blessed, because when I go to work, I never feel like I'm at a job. It is
right.
It is the most wonderful experience I have ever had. Can I put a little bit of a plug in for the program, since it's a nonprofit?
Jerry?
That's fine.
The local YMCAs many of them have what's called the Live Strong at the YMCA program, and it's free for any cancer survivor. And so all you have to do is go to your local Y, see if they have the program. You don't have to be a member. There is no charge whatsoever. It is an actual gift from the YMCA to the cancer community and people dealing with cancer.
Wow, interesting. I didn't even know that was happening in the communities. Well,
Yeah.
Stephanie, you're doing great work, and I love your, I love your spirit. You have a really positive spirit. I love that, and I think that that's just it. I bet that the people you encounter say the same thing. So that's a wonderful trait.
Thank you so much. You all have a wonderful, fantastic Monday.
All right,
you too, Stephanie.
Got that phone line open there, 1-800-585-9396. I remember when I was invincible, and now I'm realizing I'm not, because life and nature are catching up with me. But how do you adjust? What adjustments have you made to still stay active, like Stephanie was talking about? 800-585-9396. Okay, we're going to the Upper Peninsula, the UP in Michigan. Jerry, listening to EWTN Radio on Northern Apostle Radio. Hi, Jerry. Good name. How are you?
It's great, Jerry. I'm doing well today.
Good. Fire away.
Pardon me?
Fire away.
Well, I'm just going to say you could have grown up in my house. I got 4 brothers, and we did a lot of the same kind of things that you talked about doing, whether it was playing sports till all hours of the day and night, through the night, in the dark where there was no lights and stuff like that, and the different things that we did, and sometimes hurt ourselves a little bit, but nothing too serious, no broken bones or any of that. Growing up, we swam in Lake Superior, moving ice chunks on the side to dive in just to see who could be the craziest. Some of those kinds of things that we did as brothers, and now that I'm a father myself with 3 teenage sons, I kind of am a little bit more cautious with them and try and guide them away from some of the things that I did with my brothers, just to be a little bit more careful maybe.
Wow. I've never had kids, but just the other day I was, for whatever reason, it struck me, I started thinking about how I would feel if they were out running around playing, or at somebody else's house, maybe in parents' house. You drop them off places when you go out to work during the day, or they have to be out of your sight, and you never really quite are sure what they're doing. And it struck me, maybe for the first time in my life, I thought, wow, parents really have that that burden, that responsibility of making sure their kids, you don't want to hem them in too much. But Debbie, I know you had the two boys. You want to give them freedom to roam and have fun and stuff. But I imagine it's always in the back of your mind as a parent.
Yeah, you just worry all the time.
Absolutely, and now I have a much greater appreciation for my parents and what they worried about as well.
Right. Wow. So, that's the thing. So if I had more than two boys, this is what I would have had to encounter, is that the boys would have just been all over the place, all hours of the night, climbing huge trees and jumping off roofs.
It's true, Jerry. You are right. We would play, football. We'd play out in the street, on the paved street, and
you guys are giving me a headache.
And we had this game we played, where, in our front yard, and we had a football, and 8 or 10 of us out there, whoever had the ball, had to get to one end of the field, and everybody else could tackle him, and anyway, I survived, at least physically. I don't know about the mental part, but Jerry, thank you for the call. Appreciate that from
Thanks, Jerry.
The UP. My college roommate was from up that way.
60 on 10 with Monsignor Charles Pope.
The 10th commandment, you shall not desire anything that is your neighbor's. This commandment is similar to the 9th because it uses the word covet, which means to inordinately or inappropriately desire something. And therefore, related to this are concepts that are familiar to us, such as greed or avarice, which is the undue passion for riches and powers. And likewise, envy and jealousy are related here. Jealousy, you have something that I want, but I want it inappropriately or inordinately. Likewise, though, envy is a very dark thing because it wants to destroy that which is good in another, because it makes me look bad by comparison. And so, in all these ways, the Lord is asking us to look very carefully to our desires because they can grow too expansive and lead us into very grave sins. The 10th commandment, you shall not desire anything that is your neighbor's.
EWTN. Live truth. Live Catholic.
I recently had lunch with an ex-gang member who had converted to Catholicism. He told me his story, how he used to get respect by hurting people, jumping people from rival gangs and beating them up with his fists, chains, and even stabbing them. He shared how he used to get a rush out of running from rivals who were trying to get even. All that changed when he found our Lord thanks to a gang outreach program called Prevención y Rescate. As he spoke, his eyes were bright and pure. His face was gentle. I looked at him and said, "Angel," that's his name, "I can't even see the guy you're describing. He's not in there anymore. He's completely gone." As St. Paul wrote, anyone in Christ is a new creation. The old is gone. If you're in Christ, you're a new creation, The old is gone. And the only person with the power to keep holding the past over your head is you. Stop doing that. This is Chris Stefanik from RealLifeCatholic.com on EWTN Radio.
This is your show, Take Two, with Jerry and Debbie. This is where your takes drive the show. Today we're talking about when you could remember about the thoughts you had of being invincible, and how has that changed, and maybe taking a walk down memory lane. As we were going into the break, I actually did start to think about my sheltered childhood. I actually did have a little bit of an adventure with my dad. My dad was very good at allowing us to explore our horizons and to do things and to learn things, especially survival skills and stuff like that, which used to drive my mother crazy because my mother was more of a worrier. And so she would always be actually yelling at my dad saying, "Stop it, the kids are too young. They can't learn that so early." But my dad thought it was a good thing. So maybe that was my adventure when I was a child. I had to put something for this discussion, Jerry, because I'm feeling very left out since you climbed very high trees. I don't have anything to add to that. But anyway, Annette, you're up next in Jackson. Is that Michigan?
Michigan, yeah.
Michigan. Okay, Jackson, Michigan on Good Shepherd Radio. Oh, I love that. Good Shepherd Radio. Hi, Annette. Welcome to Take Two. Hi, Annette. Are you with us? Annette?
Yeah.
There you are.
Okay.
Hi. No, that's okay. We were just waiting for you. What were you doing?
Actually, I was just watching a crane or something walking across the road.
Uh-oh.
Oh, cool. Cool. Very cool.
Yes, very.
So what's your take on this?
Well, when, as one of the other callers have stated about being a tomboy, I I was a huge tomboy. There was 12 years difference between the oldest and me, and my sibling that's age-wise closest to me was my brother. So I was always doing, tomboy things. He raced motocross bikes, and so of course I had to have a motocross bike, and we would always be, trying to jump new ramps. Well, one day, and he also all the time would play pranks on me, pretending he was hurt, and so I would go run and get our parents, and then I would get in trouble because, they're like, he's fine, what are you doing? So he was always kind of setting me up. So anyways, we were jumping ramps in our local neighborhood, and we kept adding things to it and get higher and higher. I was probably about 7 at the time, 7 or 8, and so he was around 12, 13, and the ramp got pretty high, and I said, I'm out. And, oh, come on, because he had already jumped it once, and I said, nope, I'm not doing it. Well, he went ahead and took my turn, and as he went flying off the ramp, I couldn't watch. I turned my head, and so when I turned back around, he was laying in the road with his headlight on the curb. Well, our neighbor across the street had seen him laying there, and they thought he got hit by a car. So I couldn't see the other side of his face or anything, and so I thought he was just pretending, and I thought, oh, he's really going to be in trouble now because now the neighbor's involved. And so he comes running over. My mom and dad go out there, and they're like, why didn't you come get us? And I said, oh, he's fine. And they looked, and they said, he's not fine. He had to go to the by ambulance to the hospital. He had hit the tree on his motocross bike, had broke his nose, had internal sutures inside of his mouth, upper and lower, 2 black eyes. He was very, very blessed that he did not die. And they said that had he had been any older or any younger, he wouldn't have survived that. And so it was, definitely, a Jesus thing watching over me that I did not take my turn because they said that, I definitely had I jumped it, I wouldn't have made it. And so, yeah, my Evel Knievel days were over after that. So,
yeah. Oh, man. Yeah, it just reminds me, as we're talking here with you, Annette, that I think there are so many young people today, mostly boys, but certainly girls do this as well. And I think there's a lot of peer pressure, and you see them on there doing like really stuff on their skateboards, getting up on arm railings and leaping off of, a flight of stairs. And I don't know what drives them to do that, except maybe it's the peer pressure, maybe it's the thing of like, well, hey, people think I can't do it, so I'm going to go ahead and do it. But it scares me to watch some of that stuff sometimes.
Oh, absolutely, it does me too. And I just, like I said, after that, because I would be out there, and it was primarily boys in our neighborhood, and playing football and everything else. And after that, I was just, I'm out. And I think part of it too is, because of being a girl, I have a lot of Native American in me that, they're not going to tell me I can't do it because I'm a girl. So, I think between the peer pressure, like you said, and then also if you, are a female or it's, something that's not predominantly in your, gene pool or your gender that, a lot of people do it to try to prove people wrong. But, yeah, I will never forget that. I was just, oh, my gosh. Wow. And when they when I got over on the other side of him and seeing him just bleeding and everything all over the place, I was like, ugh. Here I thought he was going to be grounded, and I'm like, oh my gosh.
Right.
So yeah, it was, but yeah, definitely.
You must have had a lot of emotions going around you when it happened to your brother. But the thing I just wanted to tap into is, Annette, obviously you had that instinctual sense inside of you not to take that turn. So have you used and developed that same instinctual sense, especially when it comes to discernment and your spirituality? Because that's the same thing. That's the same feeling.
That's very funny that you asked because I'm a cradle Catholic, and especially over the last year, I have really been tapping into more of my faith. My faith has always been very important to me, but I actually went through one of the discernment classes last year. My husband and I both did, and been getting more involved in our parish and going to Bible study, and I do. I always, at least I try to always tap more into that and just think, that's not that's not a good thing. And I actually had one of our priests. I was having a lot of confliction about some things a few weeks ago, and I was in confession, I was discussing it with one of our priests, and he, or actually a meeting I think I had with him, but he had said, he said, when you have that conflict, he said, because anytime that, Jesus isn't going to give you that kind of feeling. He gives us grace. He said, so anytime you're having something that's, that's making you anxious or fearful or, something of a negative feeling like that, he said, then it's not usually a good idea because that's not something coming from Jesus, because he's not going to make us feel like that. And
right, the agitated spirit. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And so that's something that I really, I have been, telling everybody that I know, when they're going through difficult times, that exact statement. And I keep that in my head anytime I start getting anxious or overwhelmed with emotions about something. I think, this isn't right then, because,
right.
Jesus would not be making me feel like this.
Right, but see, it's fascinating. See how we weave this into our spirituality, because you actually, without knowing what it was, you actually tapped into that when you were a small child, and it actually saved you from. I mean, it's unfortunate that your brother had to go through what he went through,
Right.
but it's interesting that's what the feelings that you were feeling, you recognize them, and I think that's important. And Jerry, you were going to add something about that?
No, it's really conscience plays that
Right.
role as well. And it sounds an awful lot like what Annette is describing there. But Annette, you've helped to make this a fantastic show. Thanks for listening there to Good Shepherd Radio. Here we get a call from Good Shepherd Radio, right on the heels of Good Shepherd Sunday.
Good Shepherd Sunday. Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Annette, for joining us. We appreciate that. Mike, don't go anywhere. You're going to be right after Leslie, who is in Saginaw, Michigan, listening on Ave Maria Radio. Hi, Leslie. Welcome to Take Two.
Hi, thank you so much. I am from Christ the Good Shepherd Church here.
Oh, fantastic.
So this must be Shepherd Week.
Yeah.
It sure is.
No doubt.
My story is, it wasn't a scary thing until afterwards when I realized what had happened or what hadn't happened. But I was a young woman, sort of like Mary Tyler Moore. I turned the world on with my smile. And I was single, I was young, and I had gone to college in Grand Rapids, which was at that time about 3 hours away because of the speed limit, 55. And so it was St. Patrick's Week, which should have told me, I've always lived in Michigan, that this is not reliable weather. But we had the most gorgeous week. It was probably 50 degrees, no snow. And so I took off from work, didn't have boots, didn't have gloves, no shovel, and just went over to see my old roommates in Grand Rapids. It was glorious. I got there. We had such a nice time, and I was to stay Saturday and come home Sunday. Excuse me. And so we stayed up and talked all night, and in the morning we're so shocked to see that it had snowed like 2 feet in the night. And I thought, I better get out of here. I better go home, because I had an obligation on Sunday morning to teach Sunday school. And I was not Catholic at the time. I was Baptist. And this was very important. I had to get back home in order to teach that class. So, it took me an hour to dig my car out. It was just terrible. I should never have tried to go home. But I came back into the dorm and say my goodbyes to everyone, and a gal that I didn't really like came up to me. She says, we don't live that far away. Why don't you come visit me during the summer? And, in my heart, I'm thinking, I would never go visit you. I don't like you, that sort of thing. And she says, no, I really think that you should come and visit me. And she drew out on a napkin directions to her home and the address and everything. And so, I stuck that in my pocket, went out on my way. The only money I had was very little, like about $8 to fill up my tank. No gas stations were open, of course. It was a blizzard. And I was driving through huge drifts and, had no boots. I could not afford to get stuck. And so I made it almost all the way home. I had gone, and it was taking such a long time. It turned into like a 5 or 6 hour drive across the state. And I got to this point that was probably about 30 miles from home, and the state police were on the road and said, no, you can't go through. There's 15 cars in the ditch from here to the next town. You just can't go any further. You've got to turn around and go back where you came from. Well, I had no gas, had very little money to get it. No gas stations were open, and I just sat on the side of the road in my car bawling because I had been so foolish to do this. And I thought, I don't even know where I am. And so I drove a little bit further to see where I was. I was 1 block away from the home of this girl who insisted that I come visit her in the summer with directions, and I couldn't believe it. But God was watching out for me. He made me take that girl's directions, and I drove up to the stranger's house, knocked on the door, said, I know your daughter. She gave me these directions. This is her handwriting. Can I stay here because they won't let me go any further? And to this day, I'm thinking, what was I thinking? Just foolishly, and that was the thing. You're young and you don't think any further ahead than, where your nose is. I truly think, God even takes care of fools.
Well, what it reminds me of a little bit, Leslie, is this is almost like a God incident, yes. and I understand you're thinking like, what was I thinking at the time? But it's almost like one of those times when God just sort of miraculously leads us to something or someone, and they're able to provide for us. And in this case, you got shelter. I mean, Debbie, it was a whole lot better than Leslie sleeping in the car for the night under those conditions. Yeah.
It was the most, why did I go off? Why didn't I stay where I was? Why did, all these things, but
Leslie,
it worked out so well.
Yeah, Leslie, that was your guardian angel. You do realize that all happened because your guardian angel was watching out for you.
I think so. Mm-hmm. I think so. And, that's part of my conversion story. I became Catholic, I think it was 2006. And
nice.
My husband was Catholic, but he was not a pushy guy at all. And so this came to me that I needed to be Catholic. Oh, my goodness. I think it was like 30 years into our marriage.
Wow.
And we had been getting very disturbed over the church service at the church that we were going to. And we were one by one staying home. And finally, the whole family was staying home. And I got this urge to go to the RCIA class at a Catholic church near us. Mm-hmm. That's another great big story, which that didn't work out, but in the end I did become Catholic. But,
very cool.
Very cool. It is cool because my husband, after about 2 or 3 weeks of me being gone on Sunday, he says, "Where are you going anyway?" And I said, "Oh, I'm enrolled in RCIA."
Nice.
He didn't know what it was because he stopped learning about the Catholic Church when he was confirmed and never thought about it again.
Wow.
And so...
But Leslie,
he came back to the church. Our daughter came into the church.
Nice.
I mean, it was just beautiful.
Leslie, but here's what's beautiful about it. Well, thank you for your call and thank you for your story. All throughout your story, I could feel like your guardian angel was with you, and they truly were. The other thing that was beautiful is that you had this. You said, "I had this urge." We think that's the Holy Spirit, urging you to explore the Catholic Church, which you did, and came into the church and bringing your whole entire family. God bless you for that, and welcome home to you and your family. What a great story! You got a great spirit, Leslie. Keep it up. I just wanted to say something really quickly because I'm shocked at this, Jerry. I'm shocked that there are areas of the country that still do not have Catholic radio. I shared earlier that we just got back from the spring appeal at the Station of the Cross, which serves upstate New York and Rhode Island, Pennsylvania, Massachusetts, all the surrounding areas. And it was such a privilege and honor to be with the folks that just value Catholic radio. And there's areas of the country that aren't being served by Catholic radio. So we're talking about being urged by the Holy Spirit, maybe feeling those promptings. If you're in an area of the country that does not have Catholic radio, and perhaps God is calling you to get involved, maybe you could learn more about starting a Catholic radio station. It's really quite easy, I think. I've seen it evolve in an organic way, which is a wonderful experience in the area that I lived in Phoenix when it first got started. So all you got to do is contact Jack Williams, and you can contact Jack Williams by calling 205-795-5756, or you can email Jack at jwilliams@EWTN.com today. And Jerry, I know in your area near Palm Springs, you didn't have Catholic radio for a long time. You always talked about that.
Yeah. Thankfully, we've got a station there recently. So, But you're right, Debbie. It's not in a lot of places, but thankfully it is in Germantown, Maryland. That's where Mike has us listening on Guadalupe Radio. Mike, thanks for your great patience today. Welcome.
Oh, no problem. That's a good afternoon. Hey, so,
Hi, Mike.
My thoughts are that there's plenty of you either are the type of person who is kind of has that itch to do things that might be a little more risky, or you're the type of person who isn't. So when you're mentioning fireworks, my wife was telling us about some kids in the neighborhood who got into trouble with fireworks, and the fire department ended up getting involved and everything, and no one got hurt. And
thank God for that.
Yeah, and once I found out no one got hurt, and the minute she told me, I started laughing. And she goes, "What are you laughing at? What's wrong with you? This is wrong. They did this wrong." And it's just like, but that's what you do. And so, there's your kid. You get into trouble doing these things. And so my wife is very much a complete polar opposite of me. I'm of the side of you try things out, and sometimes they work out, sometimes they don't. You learn by experience, that kind of thing. And she's of the more interior, play it safe type of variety. And when I grew up, I was the youngest of 5. So by the time my parents got around to me, they always gave me very good overall, Catholic teaching and guiding principles and such, but I wasn't micromanaged as a child, and I wasn't overscheduled as a child. I was very much left to my own devices to do kind of what I wanted to do. And so I always learned that as long as you don't ask anybody for permission, no one's going to tell you no. So, and then, and my only real solid rule growing up, even as a youngster, is you're not allowed to cross the street, which was fine by me because our house adjoined a school. So if your house adjoins a school, you have access to almost an entire neighborhood without crossing the street because you just use the school as your hub of the spoke. So, as a result, I was able to get into quite a bit of mischief, some good, some bad. But I think overall, I ended up going to a Catholic college, and so for a long time while I was in school, I was active with campus ministry, and what I realized is the amount of creativity and adventure that you can get into just by being active in your campus ministry and being, we did a lot of work with the poor. We were in areas that no other student would dare tread. One of the reasons I went to this school was because it was in a neighborhood that was very blighted, just like my high school. And so I was like, the amount of things I could do here is just amazing, because I felt like it wasn't a neighborhood with rules. It was a neighborhood where you could do whatever you wanted, and your possibilities were limitless in a way. So, you could either do crime or you could do good things for people. And so the church offers so much as far as, if you have an adventurous spirit, it's utterly unlimited what you can do inside the Catholic Church.
Right.
And so it's just a matter of, I think, having the guiding principles and knowing that, you can go mission somewhere, and which is just the ultimate adventure. You could have stories that could just floor people just by virtue of being active in your faith. Even locally, you can have stories that floor people, because you can let people know that there are people that exist that they've never even heard of before, that there are people that have never left their house because of being a shut-in for all these years, or
Right.
people with these types of challenges.
You know what, Mike? I just want to offer a couple thoughts before they fall out of my head here, and they may have already done that. Actually, no. You mentioned not crossing the street. Here's another. I didn't want to cross the street anyway where I grew up, because there was a cemetery across the street. So that kind of kept me from disobeying any don't cross the street rules in the house. But I'm thinking, I thought of the same thing, Mike. I thought missionary is a great adventure within the Catholic Church. But a little twist on that for your consideration, maybe Debbie, yours too. This is a situation where it's not so much people go into it thinking they're invincible, but they go into it in spite of knowing that this could be very dangerous and risky.
That's right.
But it's a self-gift on behalf of others, and I think that's what makes something, and so many things within the church, Mike, that you're talking about serving. It's what makes them so beautiful, I think, is because it's for the benefit of others.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And it can drive you to be a better Catholic or a better Christian, is that, if you're not afraid of the ultimate consequence, and I have a youngest one who's very much like me, and he's very young, he's only 10, And so I'm thinking in these terms of he's that type of person. He doesn't do things for peer pressure. He does things because he's just driven to do them, and sometimes. And so, with me growing up, I always was at funerals, so I'm very aware of people dying and stuff like that. So when you know that there's a certain standing that you need to maintain with God and with Jesus, and that's your kind of your rock, and as long as you're set in that aspect of your life, you can basically be fearless in many other aspects of your life.
Interesting take on that. Mike, it's a good thing your name is Michael after the Archangel Michael. That's all I'm going to say. But Mike, you make a really good point, though, because growing up, I did not have a real huge adventurous spirit, but I do now within ministry. So it's very interesting how you tied that in. I think it's absolutely phenomenal. Real quickly, Megan texted in and she said, "Debbie, you're not alone. I had a sheltered life as well, and didn't have the urge to do those daredevil acts. In fact, she said when she was 13, she finally realized she could take a cookie out of the cookie jar without asking for it. Yeah, and that's sweet. So Megan, thanks. I didn't want to be alone in this. I didn't want to be the only one with a sheltered childhood. But okay, real quickly, do we have time real fast, Jerry? Do we have about 90 seconds?
Sure, yeah.
Okay, let's go to Jackie in Olympia, Washington, listening on Sacred Heart Radio. Hi, Jackie.
Hi, Debbie and Jerry. How are you all today?
Doing
Very
great.
well, Jackie. How about you? Sorry we're short on time, about a minute and a half.
All right, I'm going to try to make this real quick. So I've been listening to the both of you and your callers, and I'm kind of like tied into all of your stories. I'm in my 40s. I'm like 44 years old, and I went from sighted to non-sighted. I lost my eyesight about 15 years ago. And you talk about adventurous things. Well, I kind of lived like not so much a sheltered life, but my dad was so overprotective with me because I was the only girl, and I have 3 brothers, and so I always had to do the girly things. And it really and I used to be very involved with our church. I'm from the island of Guam. I don't know if you ever heard of that, but I had moved out here to Washington about 14 years ago now when I lost my eyesight. And what do you call that? I always thought that I couldn't be able to do things when I lost my eyesight because I became blind overnight. And, I just kept thinking I wasn't going to have anybody around anymore because of what had happened to me.
Got about 30 seconds, Jackie. Sorry
All right.
about that.
Well, anyhow, I just wanted to tell you that my life has been very happy and when I had sight. And now that I don't have sight, God is so good because I have a fruitful life now. I sing in the church choir at Sacred Heart Catholic Church. I go out and sing in the nursing homes and visit the elderly. And I am also a certified chef, and I cook for and bake for the homeless shelter here. So, yes, nothing is impossible. God is so awesome, and I just wanted to share that because, like your last caller said, you can do anything as long as you put your heart into it, your faith, and God, He's right there with you.
Wow, Jackie, first thing I was going to say is I'm sorry about losing your sight, and of course I am, but to hear how you have turned that around, that is just absolutely inspiring. Bless you, Jackie. I wish we had more time to hear it. Jackie, thanks for the call.
Call us again sometime, Jackie. We'd love to talk to you some more. What a great, great story. You definitely inspired us. Another great show. All the calls we couldn't get to, we're so sorry in the text. This is how this show works, but you made this particular show a great one because of your participation. Tomorrow we got what, Jerry?
Well, the cost of ignoring God. How much do we pay to ignore or run from God? I'm talking about TV, phone, gadgets, devices, all these things that keep our attention away from God. The cost of ignoring God tomorrow. Hope you can be with us.
Have a beautiful and blessed day. We'll see you real soon.